This lifestyle saved my life. Let's start out with it. Working 20 hours per week for a company, a typical 9 to 5 job, so to speak. I actually work from 10 to 6:30 or so, but anyway, with like a longer lunch break. But the idea is with this, I remained sane by working part time. If I work 40 hours per week for another company, for somebody else, it just gets under my skin. I feel like I'm wasting life. Obviously, we have to pay for things in our lives. We have to contribute some tangible value, get paid in some way, more or less, to survive in the modern world, to live a normal life, so to speak, just to get access to basic resources. So naturally, you do have to commit some energy to either your own endeavor to make money or a business. And it's fine for me to commit time to another business. But if I'm doing 40 hours per week, getting really involved, getting really dedicated, it feels like I'm living for someone else's mission, and it just gets under my skin. So working 20 hours per week for someone else is a really healthy level for me. It really does make me quite a bit happier. Next thing, strength training 5 days per week. This might be like the number one thing I do to completely stay out of depression. Like, depression visits me just so rarely now compared to what it used to. You know, I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, type 1 with psychotic features. I used to have very severe depressive episodes. Sometimes it lasts for months. Sometimes it'd be on and off more or less for several years. And the only breaks would be some, really peak manic episodes that also were unhealthy. So, like, the lifestyle that I've designed for myself is basically a lifestyle for sanity. And I guess that's what I'm here to impart on you. If you'd like to live a happier, more sane, more balanced life, maybe you should try some of these suggestions. Just see if they resonate. So the strength training 5 days per week. I do feel like this is the number one thing to combat depression. You literally have to move your body. If you're just sitting at a desk all day, or sitting on the couch all day, or sitting at a gaming chair all day, just playing video games, like, I feel like not being physically active, it's just not what our bodies are meant to do. And you don't have to do it for long. I do 5 days per week in the mornings, typically 30 minutes to an hour sessions. So, like, usually no longer than an hour. And even then I take longer rest periods. I'm in a more powerlifting style training right now. So taking long rest periods is perfectly fine, which can make a session take longer. But this is another thing. I have a home gym. You can have a home gym with very minimal equipment and still get perfectly great results as far as your physique, even your strength. But really, why I bring up the strength training today is this is a mood booster. If you can commit to strength training for 3, 4, or 5 days per week, maybe even more depending on how you structure your program, I do believe you are going to be far more mentally healthy and happy than the version of you who doesn't do strength training at all. It also has a million great effects for your health. You can look that up if you'd like. There's tons and tons of evidence for that. Anyway, on to the next one. Starting a passion business. I'm literally sitting within the physical location of my passion business. I am a spiritual coach. I host group meditations, And beyond that, I also have started doing tarot readings. Or rather, I've started accepting payment for tarot readings. I've done tarot readings for several years now. But the whole idea is like, I love spirituality. That is a huge part of what I want to be here on the planet for, is to develop spiritually, to awaken deeper, to experience the sweet nectar of the mysteries of existence. And again, like if I were working 40 hours a week at a typical job, that just takes away your time and energy to focus on that quite as much. Now, you can still like make a lot of spiritual progress as a householder working a normal job, and all of that time is not necessarily a distraction. All of life is challenging us to grow spiritually, to grow emotionally, to grow psychologically, even to grow physically if we conduct ourselves well. But with like starting this passion business, or more like this passion vocation, I'm not even really worried about it for money at all. Like if I could just offer all the services for free, but still pay for my basic needs otherwise, that also works. But it's more about spending my time. I want to spend a huge chunk of my time meditating, studying spiritual texts, doing different awakening techniques, and just living spiritually, living present, and, awakening deeper. Understanding how to go and move beyond suffering, how to meld myself, rather like how to just flow into life in such a way that I'm no longer resisting any of it. Like I'm fully here and with it during the time that I'm alive and existing as a human being on planet Earth. And sometimes, if it goes well, sometimes I'm not a human being on planet Earth. Maybe you can see from the tapestry behind me that gives you a little hint of, just the journeys you can have within yourself, within your own awareness. That's what I love. That's what I want to spend more and more of my time on. So doing that, especially now, like doing that more in a community focused way, and actually meeting other spiritually minded people who live near me, connecting with them, that is a great thing that keeps me happy. And it's like, if I didn't have this urge to like have this personal development arc to always be focused on deepening my spirituality, maybe I would be fine to work 40 hours a week for a regular company. But the problem is, like, I have this deep urge for a sort of personal evolution, and that requires a certain degree of autonomy. So if I spend too much time working for just a company and just trading my time for dollars, that just doesn't work out for me personally. And maybe some of you are like that as well. You need to have your own projects that have meaning for you and move you in the direction you want in life to be your happiest, most robust, and most vigorous self. So next one, real estate investments. About 8 years ago, I started a real estate partnership with a local small business owner, and on a rather minimal budget. Housing is still fairly cheap where I live, compared to many other places in the United States. I invested in a freaking totally dilapidated, destroyed, molded out duplex, and we renovated it fully and then rented it out, and like turned what was kind of an eyesore on the community into like decent housing for people. And that is an obvious value creation for society. So it doesn't take much convincing for people to want to pay you to live there. Like, it is a very honest business endeavor. I really try to be like as fair and kind of a landlord as possible. I think it's kind of sad. I wish more people could come in as highly ethical landlords. Um, Although it's a very challenging thing to do, um, because there are a lot of conflicts of interest. But anyway, investing in rental properties has created like a sort of independent way for me to more or less have an early retirement fund. That is what I look at it as. I look at it as a long-term investment, decades and decades to continue to build up the value of these investments, of this business, so that I can like only need to work 20 hours a week at a typical job. Like this is like my financial freedom vehicle, one of them. So that's kind of what that stands for. Just any type of long-term investment with regular returns. I think if you make a solid, wise financial investment early on in your life, I started that real estate partnership at 22. If you do something that young, eventually it will pay off and it will, help you live a happier life. That's the whole point, right? And next thing, spending tons of time with my wife, my son, my parents, as well as occasionally getting to see extended family members, like spending tons of time with family. That is something that keeps me quite happy and healthy. I think spending time with family, if you can have healthy, strong family bonds, I think that is one of the best places you can invest your time as a human being. Like, it's one of the best places to invest your time and get the return of happiness and fulfillment. That's if you have healthy family relationships. And one of the things is, if you don't put time into the relationships, it's hard for them to really function in a way that is healthy and gives you much back and gives your family much back from being with you. So I really value spending a lot of time. That's one reason why, like, working part-time really works for me, is because I have plenty of time that I could spend with family. I'm not just working 20 hours a week to, do nothing. I'm actually filling the void of time from working part-time with meaningful things. And my whole goal with like spending time with family is I don't want to be one of those people at the end of my life who says, man, I wish I didn't just go to work for some corporation or just some business, someone else's business, building someone else's a bank account. I wish I didn't spend all my time doing that. I wish I would have actually got to spend some time with my family or my close friends. Like, I think that's a really sad, really, really sad outcome of a human life. Maybe if you devoted your life to some passion or to some project that was meaningful for you or meaningful for the world, you created something beautiful or useful for the world that really like sparked your own spirit and soul, like, and you didn't spend as much time with family, I can understand that. But if you did it only for the sake of like money and status, that I think that sucks. I think that's a very regrettable thing, and I don't want to be one of the people on their deathbed spouting that regret. Going to bed at 8 p.m. to usually at the latest about 10 p.m. Honestly, it's more like 8:30, 9 p.m. is like a standard bedtime for me. Going to bed early is literally a life hack. It's funny, like, your parents always told you, You don't stay up too late, go to bed early. They tried to instill within you a healthy sleep schedule, right? And then maybe as a teenager that started to erode. I know for me, it started to erode into early adulthood, college life, beginning my working life as an adult. Like my sleep just really degraded. My sleep schedule, my sleep regularity really degraded. So now, like, having a steady sleep schedule where I go to bed 8 p.m., usually at the earliest, very latest around 10 p.m., and then waking up one day of the week, I do have something I wake up early for, which is 4:30 a.m., and then the rest of the week, it's more or less always 6 a.m. Occasionally on Sundays, I might sleep in for an extra hour or so, but usually, my family and I all start to wake up around our normal wake up time, 6 a.m. or so, even on the days where like we could sleep in a little bit more. Sometimes like you just create that habit of having a healthy sleep wake routine, and then even if you tried to be lazy and mess it up, like there's a certain momentum in your circadian rhythm which will still keep you healthy. And I don't know, I feel so much better like getting good sleep. It is a basic thing. A lot of these points should be basic suggestions to you that you have heard before. And then the next thing is like I have a regular meeting with a spiritual friend of mine every Friday morning. We meditate. So when we meet to meditate, that is like a guaranteed once per week. I will meditate for a bit of a like medium length to longer length session. So even if everything fell apart, I was super busy during a week, like I'm always connecting with first off, a spiritual friend, doing some spiritual study, and then beyond that, meditating, going within, and getting the peace and expansion that comes from that. But now that I've started, giving space for group meditations, that's at least 2 times per week. I do a decent length meditation, and then beyond that, I try to get sessions in on my own, on the rest of my time, and just meditating regularly. It goes without saying at this point. I feel like everybody should have heard of the benefits of meditation, or the fact that meditation is a great thing to have in your life. But honestly, that is a huge thing that keeps me happy and mentally healthy. Beyond that, eating a fairly healthy diet, eating a regular diet, and I do track my calories and macros every day, and that goes along with the strength training. I track my diet to basically fuel my powerlifting and bodybuilding pursuits. On a personal amateur level. I'm not like competing at this point, but it's just something I enjoy. So having a regulated diet helps that too. So this is just like literally one small page of notes that I wrote out of just this lifestyle saved my life. It took me from being in the throes of very severe bipolar symptoms, being in and out of the psych ward, in and out of the hospital more than a dozen times over the course of several years. Like I've been mentally healthy like continuously in a completely life-changing way now that these habits are the backbone of my lifestyle. So I hope that hearing some of this has given you guys some ideas to potentially try for yourself. It's good to see you again if you have watched me before on my YouTube channel. So anyway, I'm signing off. You guys have a good day.